You ever notice how some of history's biggest stories about deep, profound connection, they just end in this really strange way? It's not usually some dramatic, backstabbing betrayal. No, it's quieter. It's more logical. See, there's this hidden pattern of the pragmatic, sensible disciple just walking away from their vulnerable, brilliant master. And what's wild is that it happens over and over and over again.
This quote, "This is like the lightning strike that just lights everything up." It's this cry of pure, bewildered loss from someone who offered up their whole world, their very soul, a playground for creating something beautiful together. And then they just had to watch their most trusted friend turn around and walk away. This right here is where it all begins.
Okay, so let's dive into our first example. We're starting in the south of France with two absolute giants of art history. And this isn't really a story about paintings, it's about a massive collision between two totally different ways of being in the world.
So on one side, you've got Vincent van Gogh, and he offers Paul Gauguin his ultimate dream, the studio of the South. But you gotta understand, this wasn't just a building. Van Gogh called it a playground. It was meant to be a space of complete acceptance, of shared creative madness, with no ego involved. But then you have Gauguin. He's the pragmatist. He saw the playground, sure. He even understood how powerful it was. But he just couldn't resonate with that raw vulnerability. Faced with the messy, chaotic, demanding reality of Van Gogh's soul, he made a choice. He left to go chase his own legend. He chose to build a legacy, not to share a home.
Okay, but was that just a one-off tragedy between two artists? A unique clash of personalities? Or is it an echo of something much, much older? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to ancient Athens, to the town square, where another master was making people very, very uncomfortable.
So there's Socrates, right? Living his philosophy out loud, totally present and vulnerable in public. And when the city turns on him, his rich students, including Plato, they offer a practical solution. They say, hey, we'll pay your fine, we'll arrange your escape. But what they don't offer is to stand with him. Not one of them says, hey, if you kill him, you're gonna have to kill us too. So Plato, he saves Socrates' words. He writes them all down, and boom, he builds the foundation of Western philosophy. But he completely abandoned his master's actual living presence. He built a system, an institution, a legacy, while the man himself was left all alone to drink the poison.
So we're seeing the pattern now, right? It's in art, it's in philosophy, but to really get how deep this thing runs, we have to look at the very foundation of Western religion itself. And looking at it through this lens, it forces us to totally re-examine a story we all think we know like the back of our hand. We always focus on Judas as the big betrayer, right? But this pattern, it points to someone else, someone way more central to the whole institution that came after.
Peter the traitor. Whoa, it sounds shocking, I know. But think about it. Peter, the guy who's supposed to be the rock that the church is built on, he's the ultimate traitor of presence. In that one moment of absolute truth, when Jesus is at his most vulnerable, Peter denies he even knows the guy. 3 times. He chooses self-preservation over standing with his master. And then, later on, he becomes the gatekeeper, the bouncer, for the institution, after betraying the very vulnerability he was supposed to build everything on. So, what is going on here? Gauguin, Plato, Peter. These guys aren't evil monsters. They're actually following a very clear, very rational logic. First, they witness this incredible, raw genius. Then, they admire it. They even understand it, on an intellectual level. But when push comes to shove, when staying in that messy, demanding, vulnerable playground means they have to sacrifice a piece of themselves, they make the pragmatic choice. They protect their own future, their own story, their own ego. They choose themselves.
And this gets us right to the heart of the problem. This isn't really a failure of intelligence or even loyalty. It's a failure of resonance. It's this fundamental difference in how the master and the disciple experience the world. And it all centers around something the Greeks actually had a word for, a word that we've pretty much forgotten.
This right here, this is the key, the source of the master's genius, what Socrates called his daimonion. It's not a set of rules, it's not a philosophy. It's described as an organ of instantaneous discernment. It works before reason kicks in. It doesn't sit there and calculate or analyze, it just senses. It feels what's true in an instant. And that's not something you can learn from a book or teach in a class. It can only be witnessed. The disciples, they saw it in action, but they never had that organ themselves.
And this table just lays out the divide perfectly. The master's daimonion, it senses before it reasons. It feels what's true.
It comes from a place of vulnerability, a place the world might even call broken, and it demands nothing less than real shared presence. The disciple's rational mind, on the other hand, it analyzes before it acts. It wants to do good things, yeah? It wants to build useful structures, create a lasting legacy. But its core drive when it feels threatened is always self-preservation. It can hear the notes, it can understand the song, but it just can't feel the music.
And this is basically the disciple's inner monologue, right? I get it. I totally see your genius. I admire everything you are. But I have my own life to build. I have my own story to write. You see, it's not a rejection that comes from hate. It's a conscious, rational choice to put their own personal story ahead of a shared, vulnerable reality. It is the ultimate failure of resonance.
So why does any of this ancient history stuff matter to us, right here, right now? Well, because this choice between presence and pragmatism, between the playground and the legacy, that's not just something that happens in old books. It's a choice that every single one of us faces, probably every day.
So the big takeaway here isn't some neat answer. It's really a set of questions we need to ask ourselves. In our work, in our families, in our communities, what are we really prioritizing? Are we just building rigid institutions, or are we actually fostering real, messy human presence? Are we so busy curating our perfect legacy online that we forget how to just live vulnerably, right here in the moment? Are we just preserving the words about connection? Are we actually standing with people when it costs us something?
And that's the final question I want to leave you with. Every one of us has that vulnerable part of ourselves that just wants to exist in a playground, a place of real, authentic connection. And every one of us has that pragmatic disciple inside too, whispering about the need to build, to achieve, to create some kind of monument to ourselves. The pattern is ancient, but the choice, that's happening right now. When do you choose to build the visitor's center instead of just staying in the playground?